Hi, everybody. This is Bill Meyer, and I'm here with my friend and coworker Dan Tyrrell from Blantyre, Malawi. Dan,
Hey everybody, it's good to meet you all, and thanks for tuning in.
I, Dan and I have worked together for what's it, 6 years, Dan, total?
I think that's about right. Yeah,
Yeah. And so I know you pretty well, but a lot of the people that see this won't know you as well as I do. So can you just share a little bit about you and your family, your background, and general stuff?
for sure. Yeah, I grew up in a small town called Belmond in north central Iowa. So raised on the family farm and attended a small Missouri Synod primary school. My mom was a very dedicated teacher. Um, when I was in high school, my dad started teaching ESL in the public school district and was like a huge blessing to the Hispanic community in our area. Um, so yeah, and they really pushed me to go attend Bethany Lutheran College in Mankato. Our family had a strong heritage of sending people there. I didn't have much of a choice, to be honest. Um, but I did really enjoy my time at Bethany. Ended up studying business administration. I really was interested in like personal finance, but also interested in ministry. And I didn't know what that exactly meant. Yeah, my senior year, I had an internship at the Social Security Administration
Oh,
in
wow.
downtown Mankato, and it was the most boring experience of my life. And I basically knew there was no way I could have like a regular office job. And so when the opportunity came up to study abroad in China, my final semester at Bethany, I jumped on that and really discovered that I, enjoy cross-cultural ministry and serving overseas. So yeah, I served with Friends of China, now Friends Network, for 5 years, and that's where I met my wife, Liana. And we have two boys and a girl. We have triplets that are almost 7 years old. Um, yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
So I think yeah, the first time you and I actually met was in Shanghai in I don't know, near the end of 2011 or 2012, I think. I was there as a visitor and I got a tour from you, at least a part of the city. Am I in the right place, the right city?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
maybe we took like the ferry across, like across the Pudong River, maybe from like the Boone to the
Yeah.
like financial district across the river. I don't think I'd actually ever done that before until, we had some visitors to take across the river. But no, I remember meeting you then. And yeah, that was a long time ago. And I had
So
no clue that we would end up working together.
yeah. So we just established that while we've worked together for about 6 years, we've known each other for over 10. Huh. Well, that's cool. Uh, so just specific to, well, just tell me more just about your, not your work now with Kingdom Workers, but also how your work has changed and why it's changed, uh, with Kingdom Workers.
Yeah, I started off as the Malawi Field Manager and was responsible for all things Malawi, whether it's programs, operations, um, partnership management, that type of a thing. But about a year ago, I stepped into a new role as Africa Regional Director, which is exciting. And we now have our first national team leader in Malawi, Kingsley Matope, which I'm really excited about. And so I'm helping to serve the fields around the continent, which includes Nigeria and South Sudan at this point. So yeah, the past experience as a field manager is definitely useful, I would say, in my current role. Just I can relate to many of the opportunities and challenges that are in front of the people I support. But there's so much to learn. You know, a place like Nigeria it's a huge country and very complex. So there's a lot to learn, which makes, you know, the position interesting and fun and exciting. So yeah, I'm grateful to have challenging opportunities to serve in.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Well, you're talking about the rest of the continent and all the different other countries in Africa. I all of a sudden realized that one thing you and I have in common is behind you is a map of Zambia. And in my office, I also have a map of Zambia hanging on the wall. Mine's a language group map rather than uh, more, well, so less geographic, more language, people oriented. But we both have maps of Zambia in our office, so that's cool. uh, I I'm so in total between your time serving in China and now serving in Malawi and now serving more broadly all of Africa. How many years total have you lived overseas? And can you just a couple of recognitions of what is always the same about your work and relationships and ministry, regardless of whether you're in Africa or Asia or America, and what's different, especially between uh, Asia and Africa when it comes from when thinking about just your personal experiences and how you approach everything.
Yeah, it's been about 11 years now. So basically, I mean, mostly since I graduated from Bethany, I have been abroad except for maybe 2 or 3 years in the US, which was definitely unexpected. Growing up on a farm and never traveling outside of the country for sure as a child. It was not something I expected. Um, but yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I just found I really enjoyed learning and interacting with people in different cultures and getting to know them and learning new languages, etc. Um, but I think, yeah, one thing that always stays the same is, you know, that the internal relationship you have with with God. You know, no matter what is going on the outside, that relationship is still constant. You know, even though I'm learning new things, I'm understanding God in a new way based on the people He's created in a totally different part of the world. That relationship is still a constant and keeps me grounded, I think, as well. Um, but no, I mean, when I moved to Malawi, I found it extremely challenging. Like, I think um, many probably other people could talk about the cultural differences with more precise language, but there was just so many more similarities between like the Chinese culture and American culture that when I came to Malawi, it was like, whoa, like what's going on? Just the sense of time is so different for one. Of course, you have that collective sense in both societies, but it just really threw me for a loop. So I would say it was much more challenging adapting to living here, even though in the city you don't have as much of a language barrier.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's always unexpected challenges that you wouldn't always foresee. I find it's best to just go in with very few expectations and you know, try to adapt to the situation that you're in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, can you just share a little bit more about specific to Malawi, but also your family? You got a fun, delightful family, both Liana, your wife, but then the kids too. Uh, just share a few more details about your family and just your observations of your kids growing up going to school in Blantyre and what that's like. What would surprise people if they have never raised kids in Africa before?
Yeah, so Liana grew up as a missionary kid herself in Taiwan for about 9 years. And so when we met in Shanghai, you know, we knew that we would be interested in raising kids abroad if we had that opportunity. Um, and when she became pregnant with the triplets, we knew that they were probably going to come early. It's a very high risk pregnancy. Um, and we were already planning to move to Malawi, as you know the
Mhm.
history. But we just didn't know what the outcomes would be. We didn't know how early they were going to be born or if they needed special care, et cetera, that wouldn't be available in Malawi. So anyways, no, we were really blessed and thankful that although they were born early, they did very well and have had no long-term health complications, and which allows us to be here. And we probably wouldn't be having this experience otherwise, an experience for our children. But I remember, like, specifically, actually, the NICU, the day the kids were born, we had a nurse who was a missionary kid
Oh,
as a child, and she
okay.
basically um, heard that we were planning to bring these kids, that weighed about 2 pounds each, over to Africa eventually. And she didn't like share her concerns directly with me, I think. Just obviously I was focused on the kids.
Yeah.
But she like kind of talked to my parents, I remember, about it and how like maybe that wasn't such a good idea. And it really like altered her sense of who she was and how she saw the world. But like, while I can accept that people have different experiences, for Leanne, it was the exact opposite. Like, you know, growing up abroad was the best thing ever. A defining thing for her family, brought them all closer together, and just gave them a much more global perspective. And so, no, we've been really fortunate to be raising our kids here. Of course, yeah, people who meet them might say their accents are a little bit different or something, but they're healthy kids and learning more about the world, I think, through growing up here and hopefully spending less time on screens, hopefully playing outdoors more, although you can cultivate that in the US.
Yeah.
I think the kids do have a much more outdoor lifestyle here than it certainly would in Iowa. Um, so I'm thankful for that too.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, having spent a little bit of time over the last few years making visits and having a meal with you and your family, yeah, I can't remember a time that your kids weren't outside except to come in to either eat or get ready for bed. So that's a lot of fun, and it's yeah, that's a fun childhood, and you got a really fun family, a lot of energy. I to shift over to just talk a little bit more about Africa and kingdom workers in Africa. Uh, could you give just a relatively brief overview of what's going on in each each place that we're working or about to work or trying to work?
Yeah, for sure. So we could start with Malawi, the disability ministry. It's been going on here since I believe 2013, about 9 years. And so that there's different elements to that mission program, but it includes worship at the cross, so a simplified worship service, as well as community-based rehabilitation, so training volunteers and how to provide some basic physical therapy for children in need of that. Um, there's also some support groups for adults with disabilities and their families to gain skills for self-employment. And there's also hospital transportation that helps bridge that gap between a hospital, like a clinic referral, and getting to the district hospital where better care could be provided. There's multiple, there's different layers of that program, and that's been growing and developing over the past 9 years, and has been a big blessing to welcome welcome people into the church. The other program in Malawi right now is WASH. And so that's, kind of different depending on the community, involves community assessment to learn more about the assets and opportunities for education and service in the community. And then a local volunteer group gets mobilized around some issue, whether it's maybe malaria or water treatment, or maybe it's something based around sanitation and building better toilets. And so we help provide education and supplies to volunteers who serve their community, and do outreach through the education. So that's WASH, and there's also WASH in South Sudan, which looks quite a bit similar, although maybe they focus on different issues in the Gambela refugee camp. And then with the South Sudanese programming in Northwestern Kenya, they have community building programs, which are like sports activities. They are sewing groups for people to learn how to sew. And also we have newer literacy classes for people to learn to read and write in their native language. So these are all just different opportunities to engage refugees in meaningful activities, build community, and do it through the church. And so then the last one would be Nigeria, which is similar to WASH, but is really more general health education, where female volunteers are visiting homes and checking up on the health of the family. Is there a new kid born? Encouraging them to go to the local clinics, ensuring people are using bed nets and encouraging that to prevent malaria, and other education topics around health and WASH. So yeah, there's a variety of different topics, but we do have kind of that core WASH program is common throughout our 3 fields right now. And so we do connect and share ideas as a Africa WASH team, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And right now there's some new opportunities as well in Zambia, as well as in Kenya. So we'll see how those opportunities develop, depending on what, communities want to do, how they want to serve their community in word and deed.
So you've actually got a pretty big team. Not all of them, now that you're a regional director, not all of them work directly with you. Kingsley's leading in Malawi, but just to share with all of our friends watching this, could you just list off the names of all the people on the Africa team and briefly where they work or what their role is?
Sure. Yeah. So Malawi's definitely our most organized, developed, I would say, nonprofit organization overseas, one of the most with kingdom workers. And so we have an office manager who's Elena Chaima. We also have a disability team, which includes the leader, Dave Dewey, as well as a physical therapist, who's Hamilton Kambalame. And then Tendai Lucia, who helps coordinate projects as well. And then we have our WASH team, which is headed up by Twina Gunda, and she has Praise Chiweza on her team. And then Kingsley is the team leader, helping support the operations as well as the mission programs work. So it has grown and also has a local board that's been getting more engaged and learning more about what's happening and how they can help bring this this mission of bringing more people into the Great Commission. How can it be expanded? So they're helping with that as well. So Malawi's definitely the largest team. And I think that's what I liked about the Africa field as well, is that we kind of have different models in the other fields. So on the ground, with the South Sudan programming, it's all volunteer led. You've got local lead teams that are organizing themselves, volunteers, figuring out the best ways to serve, and then they get support from Alicia Courtwright and Daya, who are based in Canada. And then on the Nigeria side, that's also been primarily volunteer led with the All Saints Lutheran Synod has these guys who are Ministry of Health employees and interested in doing community service. And they've been leading these efforts for a long time. And only recently we have our first staff member there who's Clement. But there's five men who are involved in the All Saints Rural Health Leadership Team plus Clement, who help design the programs in Nigeria. And then they're also supported by Mike Toppy, who's a contractor for us, who's based in Wisconsin. So you're right. Yeah, it is kind of a big team if you think about it like that. And if you think about Nigeria really having 5 guys as the leadership, yeah, it is a large team, which is fun. There's a lot of great people to work with.
Well, listening to that team, it's a really cool team, and it's great that there's different, even within Kingdom Workers, we have different models of how we approach in accordance with what makes sense in each place. And also, I know that we're going to have friends, you and I will have friends who live in Zambia who are going to watch this or see it on social media and leave comments and say, your team should be in Zambia too. So Pastor Kangongo, Pastor Mutintami, we hear you. And I know I'm hoping, it sounds like we're going to try pilot in Zambia sometime in the very near future, and we love our friends in Zambia too. So just giving you guys a shout out.
Yeah, I heard that they are actually signed up for that the Marrow Center certificate program in January.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what I heard. So I'm
yeah,
taking that as well. So I'm excited. Maybe I'll get to study with those guys a little bit, which will be really cool.
yeah. No, that's wonderful. That the Merrill Center is another opportunity to work with people all around the world in, well, what we call Christian Health Ministry, but Great Commission Ministry, and the Merrill Center with Wisconsin Lutheran College. Just I guess this is sort of a nice shout out to them too for being a part of Kingdom Workers. Uh, so just one you sort of touched on this very early on in the conversation. We're going to start wrapping this up, but you want to just give just a little reflection on your relationship with Jesus and your faith life and your family's faith life. It's not always easy uh, overseas, connecting with church, even though there's churches everywhere. It's a cross-cultural connection, and just a little reflection on how your faith has grown and how you care for your family and their relationship with Jesus living in Malawi.
Yeah, I think that Liana and my approach, with our family has probably also been affected by our experience as youth. Like
Mhm.
she grew up in a mission setting and didn't have like she was, it was Chinese worship in Taiwan, and
Mhm.
she understood some of it, but not the most active youth group, I would say. And so, and my situation in rural Iowa was also very similar. So we really benefited just through having Christian friends from other backgrounds, to be honest. It just
Mhm.
really was a huge blessing to us to learn how they see the Bible. I think for me, my time at Bethany really helped me um, understand how Lutherans view the Bible, and I came in alignment with that as well. But I guess, as we're here and we're raising our kids here, we definitely are friends with a lot of people from different Christian backgrounds, which I think is a huge blessing for us and shows us, the opportunities not only in our own church, but through fellowship with other kids that our children will have to grow, and I know that those relationships will also impact their relationship with Christ. But I think, yeah, for us, it's been a thing that isn't always easy. You know, worship isn't always easy on Sunday morning when you're worshiping in a different culture. And so it makes you put a little bit more emphasis on that time with the Lord and His Word, time with family devotions. I think that has been very impactful for us. And I think that, yeah, through getting to know different people and different cultures, how people see the world, it can be really hard to interact with different people sometimes, but it opens your eyes to like, wow, how creative our God is, and how he would, how he would decide to make people so different from each other. So I think we've been blessed to have these experiences, and it does affect, how we see our God, because we see the world that He created in a different way than we would have if we were still on the farm in Iowa.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I share your experiences, in that respect, that um, the family faith life is much more important when you're in a place that is not your own culture, and when you just get exposed to things in the church, and I mean capital C Body of Christ Church, that I wouldn't have been exposed to if I only lived in Wisconsin my entire life. And it's a blessing to just realize how wonderful and different the possibilities are when it comes to the body of Christ. So
Yeah, and I think through having challenging work, to engage in, and when you're in situations where you really have no idea what to do, it makes you ask the Lord for wisdom, which we're encouraged to do in James 1:5. And God promises that He'll answer that prayer. So it's extremely grateful for the people as well He's put in my life, who can also add in ideas, and the wisest person in my life probably, who's Liana, who often is a advisor when it comes to difficult situations in work. So yeah, no, it's been a big blessing for us to be able to work and serve here.
yeah, good. Yeah, thank you for serving there. I'm really, really your presence and your work and your encouragement are a blessing to me and everybody else at Kingdom Workers, and all the volunteers and all the people the volunteers are serving. It's pretty amazing that over 500 people a year are volunteering to serve their neighbors in Malawi now for a number of years in a row. Um, it's pretty amazing if we go back to 2013 and then 2017, and how things have changed and strengthened and how God's blessed it all. So thanks for being a part of that. Dan, is there anything you were hoping I was going to ask you, or is there anything additional that would be fun to share?
Well, I can share maybe one memory of the late Martin Antombo, who was one of our founding board members, and he had become a board member in the U.S. and taken a couple trips. And I think it was his final trip to the U.S. He stopped over in New York to see some family. And one thing I will appreciate about Martin and Malawians in general is that they have a good sense of humor, and can laugh and laugh at themselves a little bit. And Martin just talked about being lost in New York, like no idea what he was going to do, freezing cold, like just had a little windbreaker on him, and it was probably November or something. And just hearing him laugh about, you know, getting lost, not having a clue what to do, but, you know, being thankful for the doorman who helped him find a bus out to, you know, a suburb where his family lived. Um, I really am thankful for, you know, the advice and guidance from Martin and other local board members who have helped our team develop to the point it is today, and also really grateful for the team that we have here in Malawi now, who are really, yeah, maintaining all those relationships with local volunteers and helping, you know, families with a sick child access the care they need. So really have to give credit to all of the wonderful people on my team in Malawi and across the continent. So
Yeah.
yeah, thanks.
No, thanks for remembering Martin. I think stories about about Martin represent stories about all of our friends and coworkers in Malawi, and he I just can't help but share Martin and Tombo's story too. So we're if you're watching this, there's a scholarship that memorializes Martin, who's now in heaven, uh, that provides tuition to people who have potential to be leaders and leaders in ministry or leaders in community. And but yeah, so Martin was over in the U.S. a few times because he was part of the U.S. Board of Directors. And it didn't matter if he came in November or December or April. Every time he came, we got a snowstorm, and he would tell us all, and he would laugh out loud and say, "Yep, it's everyone else is complaining in the room because they had to drive in the snow or their flight was delayed by snow." And he said, "Yeah, it's all my fault. Every time I come, I pray for snow, and God always answers my prayers." And it literally snowed every time he came. So and he loved it. He loved the snow. So yeah, what a wonderful blessing and servant Martin has been to Kingdom Workers. So uh Dan, thanks for giving us so much time this afternoon, your time, this morning, my time, and for all your work and all the work of all our coworkers in Africa. We're really grateful and yeah, pray that we all get to enjoy this little interview for a while now here online. So thanks, Dan. God bless.
Thanks, Bill.